Hey, welcome to episode 79 of the Articulate Ox podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. So here we are, 79 episodes in, obviously a significant number for me. It's right there in my name. So I just get back from Virginia a few days ago. Every interview that I've recorded has already been released. I have a few more scheduled. I have a few other people that have committed that I haven't actually set a date with yet. But I've been working on my travel vlog from Virginia. I think that's going to be another four-part series that I believe will start running next week. So, if everything goes according to the plan that I have today, you're not going to see interviews for a little while. I kind of want to take some time to work on some projects. I kind of want to be able to plan ahead. And I'm doing some traveling later this month. I'm going to perform in Minnesota, in St. Paul, Minnesota on 7/19. I'm going down there with the Homie Concept, and we're gonna rock some stage over there. Might be performing the next night too, the 20th. I haven't found out about that yet. That would be in Minneapolis, I believe. And then the next weekend, that Saturday on July 27th, I will be at Firewater Cantina in Ontario, California, and we are opening for Elza, my favorite MC of all time, Elza. That's going to be dope. As mentioned before, I have a few unreleased songs with Elza that I'm working on getting out there, just juggling a lot of things right now, interviews to do, podcasts, music, albums. Actually, just today, it has been a three-way race. I have three albums that were being held up, each of them by one guest feature. I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but I will give credit to the person who delivered this morning. My man, Young Hump, came through. He finished this track we're working on called A Tale of Two Doors. And so now that album, One Bill Trill, everything's recorded. It's going to go off to get mixed and mastered soon. And that's probably going to be my next album coming out. So yeah, that's exciting news that I can share for you here on episode 79 of the podcast. So I guess I have some album art for that that's almost done. I guess I got to finish that up, got to do the album art, got to order the CDs and all that stuff. But be on the lookout for One Bill Trill. This one is a true solo project in that there's really only one guest appearance, and it is Young Hump. The rest it's 11 songs. One of them I think is gonna be a bonus track. So I guess a 10-song album with a bonus track and only one guest appearance, Young Hump. The rest is all me, a bunch of different producers. We got Anthony Church on there. We got Count Fifth from Man Bites Dog Records on there. We got Pillsy Beats on there, of course. Got my man Matt Duffy there, who this is actually the first song we ever worked together. Known the dude for years and excited to have him on there. Talia Rodriguez, who's Articulate Ox royalty, who was on a few episodes ago with the OG Ben Grimm. I actually have a beat on there. I produced the beat myself, and I want to think there might be somebody else, but I can't think of who it is right now. So sorry if I'm leaving you out, but that might be everybody. Church, Pillsy, you know the deals. All right, so what we're gonna do today is hold on. I'm gonna have to take a bunch of drinks of water because this is gonna be a long episode, but I decided that we're gonna do a 79 questions episode with me. And I'm doing it with me so I can do it at my own leisure. I used the beautiful technology Chat GPT that will come to swallow what's all someday. And I asked it to come up with, I kind of described myself and said I'm interviewing someone like me. I didn't need to tell it that I was interviewing myself. And I asked it to write me a series of questions involving questions about my art, my work, my personal stuff, and I want them to get increasingly weird. Now, I haven't previewed these questions yet, so I'm just going to go one at a time with them and answer them. I have to admit that some of these I may not give. I'm going to give the answer that I have at the time. It may not be the answer that I would have given if I had weeks or months or even more than a few minutes to think about this. So I'm going to do the best that I can. Hopefully, this will be something where you get to know me a little better and also maybe you learn a little bit about your craft. I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time. I've learned a lot about the process. Hopefully, some of that comes out in these questions and we'll see what ChatGPT has in store for me. So I'm just gonna get right into this because I don't want to, 79 questions is gonna take a while as I've learned when asking other people. But the good news in this one is that like I can keep my answers short. Sometimes I find when I do this to other people, they forget there's another 60 something questions and they really wax poetic for a while. So we'll see how good of a job I do at reining myself in because I'm already going longer with the intro than I thought I would. So let's get to question number one. What inspired you to become a rapper? This is something I've talked about a bunch of the podcasts. It was really funny I mentioned Young Hump. It was seeing the No Nose Job video by Digital Underground when I was a kid. I remember being on at a friend of my parents' house. I didn't have MTV. We didn't have MTV at my house. I was at their house and I was sitting on the couch alone and that video came on and it blew my mind. I had already been exposed to things like people like the Beastie Boys and like Easy E. But for some, like those didn't feel as much as I liked that stuff, it didn't feel as accessible to me. But when I saw Humpty Hump, Shock G doing his thing, it felt like there was a room in hip hop for weirdos like me. And that was really important to me. It really stuck with me, which is why to this day I'm still a big Digital Underground fan. Yeah, that's why I'm so honored to have Young Hump on the one Bill Trill album. He's also on the other two albums that are being held up. He's on Zero for the Day, that album with Anthony Church, and he's on You're Scaring the Ducks, that album with Pillsy Beats. So there's still more stuff with me and Young Hump coming. I have some ideas for more songs with me and Young Hump and some other people. So we'll see how that develops. But yeah, that's really why that was what inspired me to become a rapper. Question number two, how do you describe your music style? So, it's a tough one. Someone recently compared to MC Paul Barman, which I don't totally hate, but I think that that's maybe his style is probably even more nerdy or academic than mine is. I try to my style as a rapper is I sort of it's a pro wrestling mentality where it's my own personality turned up to 11. Like I rap about like almost like a fictionalized bigger version of me, almost like you would do with like the superhero version of me. So that's sort of what it is. It's my personality turned up really loud. So you could say there's some rappers out there who were like, oh, I wouldn't put anything in my bars that I wouldn't actually do. When you're talking about kind of outer space stuff and weird metaphors, that's not really an option. That's sort of the realm that I deal in. So it's about being creative. It's about basically applying different versions of my personality to whatever the scenario comes up with. I like doing a lot of story tracks now. I like trying to tell a story with my music, and I do that through, sometimes I tell first person stories that aren't really about me. So it's sort of just about whatever the song calls for, but I'm really trying to make things sound different. I'm not trying to make the same hip hop you've heard over and over again for years. So question number three, what themes do you most often explore in your lyrics? What themes? So I would say there's a theme about, there's definitely themes about sort of being a little above it all, like maybe just like peering down and like shaking your head a little bit. Like there's a little bit of that to what I do where I'm just like, Jesus Christ, can you believe this is where we're at? Where I almost don't want to get involved with the fray. I just want to look and shake my head. That's sort of, I think, an overhang feeding to a lot of what I do. I guess I usually find that a lot can be lost in the fight. And yeah. There's themes about I oftentimes I talk about love. I talk about more so lately, I talk about relationships and love, and I talk about dating and things like that. Things that people can probably relate to. I try to like lately now, I think more about before I even start writing a song, I think about a concept and I try to come up with something people can relate to. Like I was working on a collab with a fairly well-known rapper just a couple days ago, and I had a list of different song ideas, and one of them was like having too much stuff in your pocket, and another one was like getting ready to go out. These are things that like we kind of all kind of happen in our lives, but like they're like so we all relate to them, and there's an angle on that I think you can capture people if you do it right. So a lot of times for me is I try to find what that thing is, that angle that we can all relate to, and then try to find a new twist on it. So one of my biggest musical influences. So I already mentioned Digital Underground, Beastie Boys. Actually, my computer right now is being held up by two books. One is that really big Beastie Boys book that came out a few years ago, and the other is Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill and the Tiger's book. And obviously, Ad Rock and Kathleen Hanna are married, so they're married again underneath my laptop, propping it up about another 3 or 4 inches. But so they're both huge influences on me. Smashing Pumpkins, huge influence, Nirvana. People who say that Nirvana like wasn't as great as they remembered are totally up their own ass. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, especially when they compare them to Pearl Jam, it's like, well, they weren't Pearl Jam. Like Pearl Jam's like we can barely name a Pearl Jam song from the past 20 years. They're just kind of like the Rolling Stones. They're going through the motions. Very talented band. I like them, but like I would say that Nirvana's even limited legacy kind of outshines them. And I certainly am not one of those people who thinks the Foo Fighters are like greater than Nirvana. I've often said the Foo Fighters are the old Navy of music. So if you get what that means, you get it. But yeah, and I don't usually like to talk smack about people, but I somehow found myself there on that occasion. So whatever. All right, so number five, can you describe your creative process for writing a song? So it kind of already just did this, where now I'll sit down with a beat and I'll really try to listen to it and think about, okay, when would be a time that this sound, like the sound of the beat, fits into your life? Is it when you're in the car? Is it when you're at home? Is it when you're going to bed? Is it when you're getting up? And then once I determine the feel, I work the story or the angle back from there. Like, okay, say it's getting up in the morning. What are things we do get up in the morning? Can I rap about making toast? Can I rap about, brushing my teeth? Can I rap about just like maybe waking up in a panic and like having to do all this stuff? So that I sort of build from there. Then I start building a narrative. And then I'll start jotting down notes that sort of fit inside that larger narrative, like maybe like words that rhyme with keywords that match up with that concept. And then I'll start building from there. I'll decide the tone. Is it going to be a joke? Is it going to be serious? And then I just slowly build from there. I break it up into small parts. I used to just dive in and start writing, but then you're 8 bars in and then you're just then figuring what the song is about. And then it's almost like the Simpsons episodes where the first act seems to have nothing to do with the rest of the episode, and that's sort of how they're structured. But I don't want that as a song. So, and I found that happened with a lot of my songs and didn't work that well. So that's sort of my process now for doing it. I'll usually record it pretty quickly after I write it. And when I'm recording it, it's never from memory. I'm always the last round of edits is while I'm recording. So I'm actually tweaking as I'm going, getting all the words like perfectly right. And then oftentimes, before it actually gets released, I'll re-record it again after I've heard it numerous times because my vocal performance is likely going to be better if I'm working off memory than it is reading off the page. And it's always going to be read off the page the first time I record it because I just wrote it in. For me, it's more important the learning tool of having that first scratch version to be able to listen to, which often is the actual version because I'm happy with it. That helps me learn it better. So stopping to learn it, memorize it, and then record it to me doesn't work as well. It wastes a lot, burns a lot of calories because I actually learn it better having the version to listen back to. So for whatever that's worth. All right. Question number six. What's the story behind your latest album? So let's talk about actually, you know what? I have an even later album than what I've even mentioned here before. This actually came together only a few weeks ago when Pillsy Beats was here. Doesn't even have the title for it yet. So when he was over here, we are finishing You're Scaring the Ducks and making some tweaks and doing the type of stuff you want to do in person. And he was like, "Yo, I made this new beat tape with my man Burnout Beats down in Atlanta. Or was he in Atlanta or Florida? I forget." And he's like, "We're just gonna do a beat tape," but he suggested that maybe we get a rapper on it, and these are the beats. And I'm like, "Let's do this now." So he gave me the 6 beats. I literally sat there and wrote to them all between like 5:30 and like midnight on that Saturday, and then I got up and recorded them all the next day. Actually, there was the last one I wrote that night. I wasn't happy with it when I woke up the next day, so I totally rewrote a new song to that. Ended up recording both songs to that beat, and it hasn't happened yet, but I believe that Pillsy and Burnout are gonna make a new beat for that one. So that'll make it 7 songs. But I'm really happy with these 7 songs. They all came out. I mean, they're all written within a small period of time, recorded within essentially that same period of time. Even though that last one I did the next day on that Monday. Um, and I'm happy with it. The first track on it's called Eyesore, and I plan on performing that in Minnesota and probably California, which reminds me I have to learn it. But I'm really happy with that. There's a lot of stuff on that album that I wouldn't have done if it wasn't been in that setting. There were phrasings I would have used, and stuff like that that wouldn't have happened in any other setting. But because I knew I was trying to get this done in a small, short period of time, it really pushed me to go in different areas, and I really like how it came. Like there was less time for those internal rhyme schemes that I really like to do, where it's like the internal rhymes of having the same sound over and over. So it's more relying on the cleverness of the writing and just my ability to tie together the songs than it was to sort of have all that like mastery of the technique. So I'm really happy with the results. So I don't know when that's going to come out, but probably sooner rather than later. It's a lot of this depends. My man Pillsy Beats having a baby next month. It's his first kid, so we'll see how that impacts stuff like scheduling and things like that. But with it coming out, but trying to get as much done ahead of schedule. Trying to get as much done ahead of time so we can release when we want. Um, Question 7, how do you balance your music with other art forms? I try to blend it. I try to now have my music be the thing that leads into my videos and lead into my album covers. Now it's all balanced in between. I don't take a whole lot of art jobs that are not related to music or not related to my music or my other musical projects. Right now, that's my focus. Um, Number 8, how to get started as a digital artist. That was out of necessity. I think how it first started was I had gotten an offer to join this company that doesn't exist anymore, where you sort of it connects authors with people looking for book covers. And I knew the most successful like artist author on that platform, and she had encouraged me to get involved and start taking these jobs. I ended up taking on a job illustrating a children's book. That was an absolute nightmare. The woman was just delusional in terms of the amount of work I gave her and the amount of credit she was willing to give me for it. And that's usually not a big thing for me, but this lady was just holding information. It was a very negative experience, but whatever, live and learn. But I did have to learn digital art because of that. This is the first time I had to deliver actual digital art files to somebody that was used for printing. So that was the first time I did it. That was probably about a little less than 15 years ago. And yeah, so that's that. What tools, no, question number 9, what tools and software do you use for your digital art? Um, I use the whole Adobe suite. I have access to the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think it's about as, I mean, you can do pretty much anything with it. You can do more than I'll ever have the time to figure out how to do. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I use a Wacom. I have, you can't really see it, but it's right here. But I have one of those Wacom drawing tablets that you draw on the screen. It's really big. That to me is huge. Drawing on the screen is never the same for me as drawing on paper. I will still almost always draw on paper, even like the most basicness. And then I'll scan it in. When I say scan it again, I'm usually taking a picture of my phone and bringing it into Photoshop and doing the rest in the tablet. For some reason, the sensation of your hand holding the plastic pen on the computer screen, it's still not the same for me. Like I would have to do it a lot in order to feel the same confidence that I do with a pen, with a paper, like pencil or ink or something like that. So I just sort of still like working it out on paper first, even at the most basic layer, and scanning it in. So the good thing about that is then it leaves you something that if you ever wanted to sell, give away, or display, you have something. And I think there is some value to that too. Some people still want that thing. I mean, it's not going to be the fully fleshed thing, but it is an idea, and to your fans, it may be something of significance that they care about. So, question number 10. What is the favorite piece of digital art you've created and why? Oh, I don't know where I just went. I'm in MailChimp somehow. Okay. It's been a pet peeve of mine lately that your mouse cursor is white and all the screens I use are white and I can never find it, which means I'm just getting old, maybe I'm going blind, but favorite piece of digital art that you've created. I'm gonna say it was probably a toss-up between a lot of the covers that are different concept the astronaut. Working with him has really pushed me into some new directions, and I've done a lot of things that I never really thought I was capable of doing. And I really like the most recent one we did for the Astral Hash. That was a really cool one. I love the one for Hastroland. I think that's what it's called, the one with the roller coaster. So I'd say those are probably some of my favorites. We did one recently that was a parody of a Misfits cover, kind of a takeoff on that. I really like that, but because it was so based on somebody else's art, their concept, uh I wouldn't push that to the front. But those are probably my favorite piece of digital art, the work I've done with concept. I also did a series of mashups of Czarface with different comic books that I really liked. Those I'm happy with. I did like a Fantastic Four one, an X-Men one, some Spider-Man ones. I'm happy I did some hip hop and video game mashups for my main man Pat.com. I did a series of I think 10 of those that I really enjoy, and I still see people rocking them sometimes, so thank you very much. Allegedly, Just Blaze bought a couple of those. So if anybody ever sees Just Blaze wearing my, which one did he buy? I think he bought the Legend of Griselda one, and there's another one, but I'm not sure what it was. But if you ever see him rocking those, please let me know because I'd love a picture of that. So, all right. Question 11. What's your approach to designing album covers? It's funny this came up because I would have blown my mind back in the day if like, oh, so-and-so designed this album cover, but they never actually heard the album. And like, I would have been like, well, you got to hear the album to really get inside it and stuff. And I would say the majority of the album covers I've done, I have not heard the album, which is not what I've expected. And it's like, it also doesn't really hurt my ability to do what I want to do. I usually know the artist well enough. The album might not be done completely. And I just sort of go on a vibe of what they tell me they want. I only really work with artists that I can communicate pretty well with. So I don't necessarily need to hear the album, but all I want to do is talk to the artist. It's basically the conversation with the artist. The goal of that is, I'm the artist. I guess the artist being the recording artist. The conversation with the recording artist, my entire goal of that is to be able to make sure that whatever I do it in a timely and efficient manner. I want to make sure that I get my questions answered, so I don't go in one direction that needs to be redone completely because it just wasn't what they were looking for. So what I want is to have a conversation where I know I'm not gonna, or when I have a clear enough idea what I'm doing, that I'm not gonna waste my time. In my process to make sure that I have check-ins during the way where I go, okay, we still on the same page? Because efficiency is a big thing for me. And to sort of not do the check-ins is kind of against my nature. So and I also like to work fast. If I say I'm gonna do something, I try to get it done quickly. I try to only really work on one project with all my attention at one time. When I'm done, I've moved on and oftentimes forgot about it. So question 12, can you walk us through your process? Wait a minute. Okay, so 11 and 12 are basically the same question. 11 is how do you approach designing album covers? 12 is can you walk us through your process for creating an album cover? I'd say to 11, designing, the process is drawing usually by hand, putting it into Photoshop, scanning it at my phone, fixing my phone, putting it in Photoshop, finishing it from there. For the process for creating the album cover is what I just described, the conversation with the artist and all that stuff. So, this is what happens when you don't read these ahead of time. You know what? Actually, I'll put a bonus question in here because those are the same. The new question 12 is somebody asked me, is the Montreal Screwjob, the wrestling event where Bret Hart was screwed out of the title, was that a work or not? I do not think it was a work. I think what we saw was what happened. I don't think Bret Hart knew that he was being screwed that night. I've never heard any credible thing that make me believe that Bret Hart was in on that in any way, shape, or form. Which to me, if you're saying that the Montreal Screwjob would work, it's a question of whether Bret Hart knew about it going in or not. I do not believe he was in on what happened that night. So take that for what it's worth. If you don't know anything what I'm talking about, Google it or just move on. So thanks to Dave L for that question. All right. Question 13. How do you stay inspired and motivated in your art? At this point, I can't not. It's become a muscle that I have to flex. It's for people who work out, it's like that feeling. It's like not doing art for me, it's like the feeling of not working out. You just have to do it. The motivation is that over the past few years, the more I put into it, the more opportunities have arisen, the more like it used to be I was chasing after these opportunities to try to work with so and so. Now more and more those opportunities are coming to me. So that keeps you motivated right there. Operate in a way that leads to that happening. And it took a lot of work to get here and doing a lot of free work and a lot of just being persistent but nice, that really got me here, and being professional and being a man of my word. When I say I'm going to do something or say I'm going to write a check or something, the thing gets done, the check gets written, Sorry, take a drink of water. That means a lot, for what it's worth, it means a lot. Don't promise things you can't deliver. And there's also like, don't be one of those people who, yo, I'm up next, this is my year. No one buys that. No one. What are some challenges this question 14. What are some challenges you face as a multidisciplinary artist? The biggest challenge for me is when I find something I can't do, because I understand with everything I learn, I understand the advantage of being able to do it myself. Right now, I'm struggling with I'm not able to mix and master my own music, which is a bit of a limit. And I want to fix that. I want to build a point where I can take something from beginning to end and have in my own studio and be done. The problem I'm having is that I record on old equipment. I record on MBox 2 from like 2008. And I'm gonna have to upgrade everything and probably move on to Logic and possibly get a new computer to do all this. So it's a matter of not just the financial expense of investing that, but having the time to learn it. Eventually I will, because I do pay to get my music mixed and mastered. And at a certain point, like, well, for the amount of money I've done for this, I could have bought this. Problem is, would I have the time to learn it? I should do the homework and see how much of a learning curve there is. My new drum machine does work with Logic and probably would be good to have that. So eventually I'll move to Logic and that will make things easier. But as a multidisciplinary artist, when you can do everything, you end up doing everything and wanting to do everything. So it means that everything takes less time. Rather have it done right, rather have my hands on it, rather not have to pay someone to do it. So that is the benefit for me, but slows things down. Question 15, how has your art evolved over the years? I mean, it went from me just drawing Garfield as a kid over and over again and tracing Ninja Turtles from comic books to being able to draw freehand and do, me from being someone who listened to rap to being able to do rap. It's been a constant evolution. I just learned the harder you work at something, the better you'll get. And especially if you're self-aware and honest with yourself. So I would say the evolution has just been, I can see the sweat equity I put into my artwork. It's evolved, like the quality has just gotten better because I put the work in. And that's all I can really say about that is that it's like I went from being okay at this to being good at this to being probably better than good. And it's like it's because they put the work in. So it's evolved, my art evolved because of the work. So question 16. What's the most rewarding project you've worked on? So I do a lot of work for free, and I hate even putting that out there, but like I like supporting artists that may not have the access to the tools I have or the time I have or stuff like that. And I like supporting them. I know it's hard to make it in some of these things people are trying to make it. And a lot of these people are younger than me and like, they're really working on a dream while I'm more working on just enjoying my day-to-day life. And so that to me is a lot of the most rewarding stuff is when I can help somebody and when I can see it makes a difference and I see them using what I do out there. And that's a good feeling. I like that. But I don't want that to get too out. Then everybody's gonna ask me for stuff. I do it for certain people, but I can't do it for everybody. Um, so yeah, I don't want to name a particular one there, but that type of art is sort of the most rewarding for me. Question 17, how do you decide which medium to use for a particular idea or project? Usually the idea chooses the medium. I don't work in a way where I'm like, oh, this is an idea. Is it a better song? Is it a better movie? Is it a better book? I picture it being pretty almost I picture what the end result will look like almost from the beginning. And that ends up making a real big difference. So I never really have to make the decision because that's almost the first decision I make. It's like, oh, I'm making a video. This is what it's gonna be, or I'm picturing this and I'm seeing the video. So that one doesn't really apply to me. Question 18, what role does social media play in your art career? The only reason I have social media is because of the art stuff. It's about the same as my rap, pushing out that amplified version of my personality. I mean, wouldn't be surprised. If you meet me in real life, it's pretty much the same person you see online, but like a little more concentrated online, a little more like, full on energy there. Um, but it's there because I have to have it there. But more and more, I'm realizing that, especially if you're a musician, building your audience through social media is a really tough thing to do. The algorithms are not in your favor, and it's because they can't be in everybody's favor. I think if they were working the way that people think they should work, where oh my stuff should be at top, everybody's stuff's going to be at top, and there's going to be no top anymore. So it's just not get out in the real world. I think that social media is important for branding and for having a permanent home for a semi-permanent home for a lot of your stuff, but the real world is really where you're going to probably, advance your art career the most. Think locally. If you can't succeed locally in most cases, unless you're in an area that's really contrary to what you do, then it's going to be hard to succeed at a larger level. 19, how do I handle criticisms of your work? I don't care. Criticize it all you want. I don't care. It's like I use the example of U2, where U2 is, you could argue, if not now, at some point, maybe the most famous, popular band in the world. There's still more people who don't care about U2 than like U2, and they're probably the most famous, popular band in the world, or were at some point. This is probably a more modern example I can think of. It doesn't matter. No matter how great you was, a lot of people who I'm gonna say hate you or indifferent to you. So criticism, I think criticism in general is an overvalued form of entertainment or art. I think people too much. There was a time when like it was first really cool to be snarky, and maybe it was a 90s Gen X thing. And then some people never gave up on that. Some people just got in this thing where it's like, oh, criticism's fun. Like, who wants to write a good music review and you write a bad one? It's more fun. But like, I don't know. I think a lot of criticism's ingenuine. I think a lot of it is I'm pretty careful when I criticize things. I want to make sure I understand it. I try not to criticize things publicly if I've just encountered it. I need some time to absorb it and think about it. I've changed my mind on things in the past. There's things that I thought were great that I realized were terrible. There's things I thought were terrible that I realized were great. So yeah, I would say I don't take like if I took your criticism, if I took people's criticism seriously, then I have to take their accolades seriously, and I really don't. Like I don't care about I don't care. Like I don't when someone unless it's a really genuine moment and I see it really touch somebody, the typical like, oh yo, you're dope, yo, your flows, whatever, like I love it. It's like, yeah, okay, cool, man. It's stuff you say to people, but like I don't get too off my head about that, so I can't really care too much if people criticize. And most people won't say this shit to your face. So I don't know. That's that. Question 20. What advice would you give to aspiring artists in any of your fields? Keep trying, keep trying. Don't have an attitude. Don't blow up on people. Don't harass people online. Make sure every interaction you have with someone, don't be embarrassed if it became public. Don't be going around acting in ways that like that you wouldn't want. Like a lot of times you're dealing with people that you don't know. When you're having a private conversation with somebody who you don't really know, it might as well be a public conversation because you have no idea how they're going to treat that. So don't say or act in a way that is not representative of who you are. Be the same person in private as you are in public. And there's a lot of people who don't get that. There's a lot of people who, that stuff's damaging. It's authenticity is important. So like if you're not ready to be able to act professionally when you're dealing with other artists in your field, and don't do it yet. If you're somebody who's going to ask an artist how much a verse is, knowing that if it's any more than like pocket change, you can't afford it, don't do it. Unless you're in a position where you're like, look, I'm going to save up my pocket change. I just need to know the number so I let you know, but be earnest with that. But like, don't waste people, like know when you're ready to make the steps, measure twice, cut first, and just be respectful. That's the most important thing. Be respectful. Um, we all start as hobbyists. And for a lot of people, the goal is to become careerists. When you're the hobbyist and you're dealing with careerists, understand that what you're doing as a hobby, they're doing as a job. So they're going to approach it differently than them. They don't want to be jerked around. They don't want to hear, oh, so and so is bringing over so much money on this date. Can you do this? Yo, can you do it for the love? This is their job. Respect it. Respect it. Question 21. What's your favorite book and why? I've always said it's Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis, though. That's a book that the more I've read over time, the more chilling I kind of find it. It's kind of like the movie Kids, where like when I read it as a kid and saw the movie Kids as a kid, it really struck me as being a little disturbing. But like it wasn't until I got older and read it and looked at it as an adult where I'm like, oh, good Lord, like as an adult, this is pretty frightening. So that's my instinct because I've always said Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. I think it's a very impactful book. I think not for everybody. Actually, Rules of Attraction by Bret Easton Ellis, his second book, his follow-up. That was probably even more of my personal choice. That one, it's a little more relatable to me in that Less Than Zero takes place in the 80s in LA and in a more affluent society and I grew up in, different coast. And Rules of Attraction takes place in a New England, I believe, college. And I read it when I was in college in New England, so it was a little easier. So that one kind of, I think maybe probably Rules of Attraction. Though I haven't read those books in a long time. They are still things that I call back to when I'm working on my art, so they still have an influence on me. Um, Question 22. Do you have any hobbies outside of your art? I'm a big fan of pro wrestling. I like watching it. It's one of the few things that I do that I'm into that I'm not actually a participant in. It's something I would probably never want to get involved in beyond maybe being a commentator. That would be the only job in pro wrestling that to me kind of appeals to me. But I don't see that happening unless I somehow fell into it. Sean Smoke, if you need a commentator sometime, hit me up. I'd love to do it. As you know, I can talk. Let me grab a drink of water. As you know, I can talk. So that's really, besides that, I like biking, I like working out, I like fashion, but almost everything I do in some way ties back to art. You know, yeah. Question number 23. How do you relax after a long day of creating? Um, I do a thing where I I'll oftentimes when I'm working on something, I'll have like a TV show on in the background. It's often like Family Guy or American Dad. And I'm like half paying attention. Something I've seen a million times. I just like hearing the jokes and the patterns, and like every once in a while, here's something funny and it like that little like I run on jokes. Like I need to laugh throughout the day. So having those little injections of jokes actually keeps my spirits up. But it also means that I don't put on like I haven't watched the last couple seasons of Letterkenny because I've never been able to give it my full attention. So like and because I never really think it's like oftentimes worth my full attention to sit and just watch TV, I inevitably pick something up to work on. So the only time I really give something my full attention to watch is when I've worked on art so much for that day that I just need a break. So that's sort of what I will do is I'll finally put on those things that those TV shows that I've been saving for those special occasions. I just started watching Shoresy the other day. Glad I waited. Season 2. I'm loving it so far. I still have to watch season 3. So yeah, so that's what I'll do is I savor. I'm not a big TV person, not a big movie person, but I'll savor those things I'm excited for until the right moment. I'm a bit of a pleasure delayer in that way. I do it with music too. Huge. I mentioned Elzon, my favorite rapper. I didn't listen to his new album for 6 months. So I was waiting to the exact moment when I knew that I could enjoy it the most. And I'm not going to show you what it was, but it was a satisfying moment that led to it, and it made listening to that album even better. So. Question number 24. What is your favorite place to find inspiration? Right here in the Somadrome, where I live. I call my house the Somadrome. I've set it up in a way that's really conducive to inspiration. And it's kind of inspired by what my idea of what the Grand Royal House was like for the Beastie Boys. That studio felt like a place where people just could go and be creative, at least in my own head and the pictures I've seen. One of my friends, Maddie, even mentioned the same thing when he saw pictures of my house. So I'm inspired just being here. It's sometimes I call it the museum. There's a lot of my own art in here. I mean, that behind me, that Gambit's mine, the Wu-Tang thing above it's mine. I think most of the rest of it is other people's art. But yeah, it's an inspiring place for me to be. I like being here. I feel peaceful here. I feel safe. I feel happy. I like the little woodland creatures. I like watching my little groundhog Cookie running around my front yard. It's fun times. It inspires me just being here. I love when people come out here and collaborate with me. So if you're somebody who I've invited out here to hang out for a weekend and collaborate and you haven't come, just know I was most likely serious. So take me up on it. Hit me up for watching this. Um, okay. Question 25. Do you have a daily routine or ritual that helps you stay productive? At this point, it's second nature. I feel deficient when I'm not productive. Like efficiency and productivity kind of feeds me. If I don't do those things, I start slowing down and I feel less good about myself. And so it's really like, and that was a problem years ago where that would happen. I maybe wouldn't realize so much why it would happen. That I just like, wow, why am I feeling down? I want to work on art. The thing is, it's because I'm not working on art that I'm down. So the way I stay productive is by just being productive. But even by if something's not working, I move on to something else. If an idea didn't pan out, I move on to something else. It's about having more ideas than you have time to do it. So every time you sit down and do it, you want to make the most of it, or at least you're trying to make the decision to work on something you're most excited about amongst a bunch of options, which is not a bad position to be in. Question 26. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Oh man, best I've ever received. Um, this is one that I mention a lot. There's a lot of good advice. I'll give a few that I remember. One person, a mentor, told me something once that she said to me, when you realize that you can manipulate somebody, you have to learn to have the strength not to do it or the cognition not to do it. A lot of times in life, you're someone who's worked really hard and gained at least a little bit of status in the world or in your community. You encounter people who are just dying to be manipulated or could be easily manipulated. Having the maturity not to do that is an important or something. When someone pointed that out to me, I was like, wow, that is a very important thing that nobody's ever mentioned before. Is that like recognizing when someone is prone to manipulation and having the maturity, the responsibility, the empathy, and the kindness not to do it and to treat that person in the best way as possible. And that's a big thing to me. There's also one that I think it was I always forget her name because I haven't seen this movie. The Hunger Games actress whose name escapes me at the moment. She was having, I think, lunch with Oprah, and they were talking about this. Jennifer Gardner keeps calling my mom. That's not Jennifer Gardner. I know I'm just showing my age. People are probably yelling at me right now. But she said to Oprah that talked about this piece of advice. I think Oprah had given her like under her breath, where Oprah just sitting down at lunch, just mumbled under her breath, "You train people how to treat you." That's a totally, it's such a true thing where like you teach other people how they can treat you. It's not the other way around where you have to accept the way people treat you. You can train people. You can let people know what's okay. You can draw boundaries. And drawing boundaries is a very important part of life that was not taught to me as a child. It was taught to me that my boundaries didn't matter. Other people's boundaries are more important. But you can draw your own boundaries and people will respect them and you can stand by them and people will stand by your side. Reasonable people will. So that's a big piece of advice from me is train people how to teach you and don't manipulate people just because you can. Um, how do you define success in your career? Um, the people around me are as happy as I am. That the people that I'm not the one take that we're all doing well together. That we're all succeeding together, and that it's not the me show. That because I don't want to Scrooge McDuck my way through life where I'm just sitting it on a big money stack and just feeling like I won. Like I want to succeed with others. I get a lot of energy from others. It's like I found more and more, especially in dating as I've gotten older, that dating people that share my energy creates sort of a circle effect that when I'm talking to someone, I'm getting something similar back from me. It's reaffirming in a way. And I know it's like you don't want it to be like, oh, you just don't want to change. It's not a matter of changing because I feel challenged a lot in these relationships, but it's a matter of just being able to sometimes people drain my energy, but when you're getting the same energy back, it means that someone else is recharging my energy in other situations where if it was a different person, maybe draining it. So that's the best way I can put it. So being in situations like that, both in my personal life and in my work life, where the energy is not draining, it's charging, that is success for me. Um, what is your favorite memory from your childhood? I'm actually going to mention something too. This is related to that question. Hold on one second. This hasn't come out yet, my Virginia tour vlog, but when I was a kid, this Flash figure was the first action figure I ever had. My mom must have got it for me. It was a superpowers figure. The legs still move. One of them a little better than others, but when you squeeze the arms, the legs move because the Flash is so fast. Um, Always been my favorite action figure. Flash is my favorite superhero, or amongst my favorite superheroes. I'm gonna throw Batgirl, Ms. Marvel, and Doctor Doom was not really a superhero in there, but those are to me my four favorites comic characters. And always been a very special toy to me. I played with it in the tub when I was a little kid. Now it's still in my office. When I was in Jersey last week, I was at the Jay and Silent Bob Secret Stash. And let's see if I can get Flash to stand up like right here. You can hang out with us. I have a feeling that's not, oh, this is gonna work. I was at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash and I was in the back room. This will be on the tour vlog, but I saw up in the top shelf, there's a shelf of things I didn't realize at the time that formerly belonged to Jason Mewes, but I'm guessing Jason Mewes probably has a lot of things in his house. And as he's having kids, he probably has to make some space. But they had this large action figure of the same action figure that was the first one first superhero action figure, maybe the first action figure ever that I had. I think it was the first superhero, maybe my first one ever. Um, and it's just it looks like it's the same size now because of forced perspective, but it's big. And this to me is it belonged to Jason Mewes, who autographed that thing back there, which is autographed it on the black with a black pen, which is a very Snoogans thing to do, as Mike Zapke said to me when I pointed it out to him on the way out the door and at that secret stash. But this to me is an art piece. This to me is tied to one of my favorite memories of my mom supporting something that become a lifelong love of me, which is comic books. I said I said before, which I haven't come out as I mentioned before, I'm done buying action figures. This is the last one. We have come full circle from the first one that meant something to me. This is now the last one. So you probably won't see me sharing any new action figures. I have all the ones that I want. So this is a favorite childhood memory of mine. Not so much as having a toy. There's other more important things, but what it meant, the support from my family over something that really meant something to me, and yeah, all that good stuff. And to that, I'm actually gonna let the Flash stay here for now, while I finish this. As long as I feel like he's gonna fall at some point, we'll give the Flash some shine. And I'm gonna take off this other sweatshirt I got at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash last week as well. Give them a shout out. Great store, great people. Yeah, you'll see my tour of that next week, as well as my tour of the Quick Stop where Corks was filmed. All right, next question. 29. What is the most influential person? Who has been the most influential person in your life? There were three people in high school, and I don't really want to say their names because these are people that aren't really doing things in public. But there's three people in particular in high school who made a big difference on me. I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends in high school. There are people that were friendly with me, a lot of people that weren't friendly with me. But there was three people that really gave me what I needed that was missing from my home life, missing from my life in general, and they made, and I wouldn't be here. I'm not here. I am today if not for these three people. I was able to see one of them when I was in Austin a couple weeks ago performing a show. I saw another one. I was down in Virginia. Third one's living in Florida. I'll get down to see him at some point. Still need to get my Florida leaf, but um, it's just there were people who, when they showed up in my life, I realized there was something I could really learn from them, and that they could make a big difference, and that they were people that were I mean, they were, only a little older than me, but I would say wise beyond their years. And they're all people who I, seek counsel from to one degree or another as I've gotten older. Put flash in the background there. And it means a lot to me to have gotten to spend that time with them. So as I'm not giving their names here, really giving the details, but they helped me a lot personally, and they helped me come into myself in a way that I'm not sure would have happened any other way. So question number 30, do you have any pets? If so, tell us about them. If you've been watching my podcast or following me on Instagram, you know that I have pets. I have two cats. I have Maybe and Chloe. They have their own Instagram. It's called Kitten Party. You're invited. Underscores in between the words, and you're as you are. I mean, you find it through my page, but follow Chloe and Maybe. I love them so much. They're a little over 10 years old. I've had Maybe since she was 6 weeks old. I've had Chloe since she was a little over a year, and they make me happy. I wake up every day and Chloe's right there on my pillow, and Maybe's looking for treats. And yeah, I love animals. I'm often guilty of being someone who you could say that I love animals, maybe sometimes more than people. But you know, take that for what it's worth. That's why I name my groundhogs. But you people are great. You people are great. My cats, though, they're really great. Question 31. What is a hidden talent that most people don't know about? I don't really hide a lot of my talents. I cook, and you might not know that. I'm good at cooking. I clean. I actually like cleaning more than most people think. So maybe that's what you might want to tell that from my office right now because it's a little messy, but I do actually enjoy cleaning when I get down to do it. Yeah, most of my talents I'm not looking to hide. I've been a firm believer of this is probably not the most PC thing to say, but I mean, I don't know if it really matters, but use every part of the buffalo. And I guess use any part of any animal you're gonna kill. And I'm not even a big killing, I don't like killing animals, but like I think that like everything you have as part of you, use it to the best of your advantage. Don't hide anything. If you're good at something, get out there and do it and get better at it. So like what you see is what you get with me. Like I'm not some superstar juggler, but I don't want to tell anybody low. I can do some yo-yo tricks. That's my check, but I don't have a whole lot of hidden skills. I can't whistle. So like I don't know. I don't know why I mentioned that, but I can't whistle. Uh, Question 32. How do you handle creative blocks? It happens very rarely. When you work as frequently as I do, the process of work becomes a second nature where if there's a block, it's usually like, oh, this just isn't like sometimes there's a road that there's always going to be something blocking the way, and it's just there wasn't a way through. And like I handle it by saying maybe that wasn't the best idea and moving on to one of my other ideas. Having so many ideas in the queue, having more ideas than you can possibly do in your life will help you through creative blocks. It's easy to go, all right, move on to the next one. Maybe that idea was only good as an idea. Maybe it doesn't work in real life. Sometimes it's the way it is. I got a bunch of those. I have a mashup of Benny the Butcher and Bender from Futurama that I have been, pardon the term, dicking around with for about a year, and I still can't get it to work right. And I want to make it a t-shirt for my mainmanpat.com, but like I know it's going to be one that sells very few because I haven't quite found that thing that encapsulates both of those concepts into one in a way that works. So, it may never happen at this point, probably won't, but who knows. There's also another one I had for Benny the Butcher and Dexter, the butcher of Butcher of Bay Street, maybe. I don't know that show that well, but my ex-girlfriend did. So that was one that never came together too. So yeah. All right. What do we have next? These questions have not got that weird so far, so we'll see if they get weird. Who knows? Question 33. What's the most unusual place you found inspiration? I find it everywhere. I find it in the grocery store. I literally am looking for it everywhere. I'm always looking for those little things in life that speak to humanity. Like maybe just seeing a sticker that's particularly ripped in a certain way on a place that's like particularly like, just trying to look at moments that capture my eye and work backwards as to why it captured my eye. Like I find the emotion first and figure out what drove that emotion, what it was that contributed to it, the context and all that stuff. So it's about working backwards from a feeling, and that feeling can come from almost anywhere. Like I'm somebody who like I can think about things that I saw 6 months ago and it can bring a tear to my eye. I think about maybe a bug that I wish I didn't have to kill that I did like 8 months ago, and that like makes me sad. So it's like I'm almost like too sensitive to things. So there's a lot I can pull from. A lot of times it's harder to actually stop it than it is to start it. So question 34. What is your favorite type of music to listen to when you're not creating your own? Hip hop's always my favorite. My second is punk. My third is probably some brand of EDM, more likely on the side of trancey, like chill hop, like stuff that can blend in the back. You can dance hard to or blend in the background. Like those, and then beyond there, it's probably female singer-songwriters, and it's in like the ilk of like the Carpenters. I mean, they're a huge one for me. I say Bikini Kill, but they fall under punk. But anything Kathleen Hanna does, Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, like those are really my four. If I know I'm going to work on rap, a lot of times I'll amp myself up some rap to get me in that mind state. But like those four are the ones that I go to most often. So it's hip hop, it's punk, it's a couple particular forms of EDM, either dance or chill, and then from there, it's usually female singer-songwriters or bands that are female driven, though a lot of the punk bands I like also fall in that category. And like, so if I were gonna throw other people on there that I like that don't hit that don't fall into that, it's people like Neil Young, the Lemonheads, who are kind of punk, but are more famous for their non-punk stuff, like in Tame Impala, like stuff like that. Like I like Sonic Youth. Like it's funny when it's like I like more standard, like might sound weird, but I like more traditional music from female perform, like more traditional structure from female performers, and I like more experimental stuff from male performers. Like I mentioned, the Foo Fighters are like the old navy of music. It just feels like something I've heard so many times before. Like, and this might sound weird, but even a female version of the Foo Fighters, I don't know what it would be like, is probably more interesting than the Foo Fighters. I haven't seen that as much. I want to see something different. I want like there to be something different that inspires somebody else to do something different, and so on and so on. So I'm not really slagging on the Foo Fighters. I'm just saying, for me personally, been there, seen that. I also have been there, seen that a lot more music than a lot of other people do. So it might be that other people would, if they lived to 400 years old, would eventually get to the same opinion of the Foo Fighters as I do. But like, I plow through music a lot faster. So whatever. Question 35. If you could collaborate with any artist, living or dead, who would it be? Oof. Um, God, I had collaborated with Elza, was my favorite. So that was it. I'd love to have done something with the Ramones. That would have been big for me. I'd love to do something with Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, though he's a bit of a wild card. I love his range. He just seems like something that come out with almost anything. Like, and I think him in a collaboration would be fun. I'm really gonna go with that. I'm gonna say John Lydon from the Sex Pistols and Public Image Limited. And he's one that's alive, and if we're gonna say dead, I would say the Ramones. That would have been a dream. And I'll throw the Beastie Boys in there as well, but they don't even feel as magical to me as the Sex Pistols and the Ramones do. Question 36. What's your favorite piece of advice to give to others? I kind of mentioned that before, but you train people how to treat you. That's a big one for me. And another one is be authentic and be self-aware. Like literally, if you don't know what being self-aware is, Google it every day until you understand it. It's just be able to view yourself the way that other people view you as much as possible, because that is where so many people's everything falls apart, is they see themselves different than other people see them, like drastically different. And just you gotta get your head around that. See yourself the way other people see you and make the effort to see that, warts and all. Don't get too tied up in the good stuff. Don't get too tied up in the bad stuff. Just try to be that. Just try to like see yourself, like work towards being someone that you like being, and see yourself in your true way. So when you see what you like in yourself, you're probably on a good path. And You know, the other piece of advice they'll give you, this is the platinum rule. This one actually, my man Rick Seaholm and I do an album about this. The platinum rule is something I came up with. The golden rule is treat people the way you want to be treated. I don't like that as much as the platinum rule, which is treat people the way they want to be treated. It means have the empathy to put yourself in those shoes and go, even if I would want this in the situation, they might want that, and do your best to give them that. If you know, if it's a reasonable thing. Some people want it to be treated in an unreasonable way. But like that is a piece of advice that I think will take you far in your close relationships. You can't do it with every stranger. You know, you drain yourself and you may not have the best results, but in your personal relationships, there you go. Question 37, what is your favorite food? Lasagna has always been one of my favorites. I'm mostly a vegetarian. You know what, I'll go with, I eat fish, swordfish. I love grilled swordfish. I've gone between being a vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, all these different things. The one that works best for me is when I eat fish and don't eat any meat or pork or chicken or poultry and that stuff. So grilled swordfish is my favorite, Cuban style, like Cajun, whatever, like that is my favorite type of food. I've gotten pretty good at cooking it. So yeah. What is the most memorable concert you've attended? That's question 38. I mean, I went to one that was Metallica, who I'm not a huge fan of, but Ramones, Rancid, Screaming Trees. That was a great show. That was Lollapalooza, I think 97 or 98. I'm gonna go with that. That was a pretty memorable show. There was an Allman Brothers show that didn't have a ticket for that I almost got arrested at, as close as it ever came to being arrested, but that's memorable for the wrong reasons. And I didn't attend it either. I just went to the parking lot. Question 39, do you have a favorite quote or mantra that you live by? I mentioned a lot of these going along, but I have one more I'll add here. This is something that I picked up from the show Parks and Recreation. It's not really a mantra, but it's something that I've been trying to move my life more to, is that there's an episode where Leslie Knope really needs a favor from the chief of police, and she's deciding what favor to ask for. And her husband on the show, Adam Scott, Ben, goes to chief of police, have a conversation with them about basically Leslie needs both of these things. And the chief of police says something like, Leslie gets all the favors that she needs. And when Ben asks the chief of police why, he says, because Leslie Knope uses favors to help other people. And I thought that was an absolutely beautiful thing to say about somebody. And it's a beautiful thing, like it tells you everything you need to know about that person. And since I've heard that, and that's really sunk in, I've tried to make a conscious effort that when someone owes me a favor, that I try to use it to help somebody else. And I feel like that is a mantra that I try to live by in my life, is to try to pay it forward, that when if someone gives you something, whether it's their time or their energy or an offer or their help, try to pay it forward and try to like help somebody else with it. And I think it's helped my life in ways that I can barely even describe, because my mouth's getting dry because I've answered 39 questions. So we're at like around the halfway mark here. I don't know how long I've been going for, but I'm gonna keep plowing through. Because if I get this done, that means I get to do less on the 4th of July, which is tomorrow. So question number 40. What is your favorite movie or TV show? My favorite movie is Eyes Wide Shut. And actually, I should have thought of this. I taped an episode where I did an audio commentary for Eyes Wide Shut, where I watched it and give my thoughts on it. Never released that. It was one of the first things I ever recorded. That I probably should drop that at some point. Maybe I'll do that in the coming weeks. I have to dig that up and see how it sounds. But I have a lot to say about that movie, so it's probably I probably started with that because I felt more comfortable. Actually, you know what? Funny, I did one for Clerks too. So Clerks, the original Clerks, not Clerks 2. So maybe I'll release that as well sometime soon. Those in terms of other movies, throw Kids in there, Reservoir Dogs. Those are my favorite movies. TV shows, American Dad's my favorite TV show. That's my sense of humor right there, is American Dad. Letterkenny, I love that. Yeah. So question 41. If you only use one color for the rest of your life, what would it be? It would be light blue. I love blue in particular, but I love light blue, like electric blue, Tron blue. That would be my one color. Question 42. What's the weirdest dream you've ever had? Weirdest dream I've ever had. I was in a little pattern when I was doing lucid dreaming for a while, where I had a dream. I was living at the Natick Mall at the time. In the real life, I was living at the Natick Mall in Natick, Mass. My ex and I owned a condo attached to it. But the dream also took place in the mall. And I was with my friend the Tooch. If anyone from Hopkinton knows the Tooch, he's like one of my best friends since back in the day. him and I got taken on some freaking wild ride where like we were kidnapped and taken all over the place and thought we were gonna die. And it got really scary and freaky and like moving fast and everything. And at a certain point, I was so freaked out. We were in the mall and I go, okay, this has to be a dream. And if it's a dream, I can make a banana appear on that table. And I did, and the banana appeared. And then I was able to live in it for another like 20 seconds or however long, knowing it was a dream. And then I was able to wake up and feel fine. And I was like, wow. It was my first experience with lucid dreaming was I was so freaked out in the dream because I had been kidnapped or taken hostage that my brain had in the dream, my consciousness in the dream had started thinking this has to be a dream because it's so intense. And it actually was. And I proved it, enjoyed it for a second, woke up. Led to a few other lucid dreams that I had too. That was the one that's most memorable, most impactful. So that was probably the wildest dream I ever had, weirdest dream. Question 43. If you could live in any fictional universe, which one would it be and why? I would have to go with probably some sort of a cartoon because I love that idea of like always having jokes, living forever, there being very few consequences, being able to draw yourself out of any situation. It would have to be a cartoon, probably American Dad. Yeah, I'd say probably something like that. Maybe the Jetsons. They don't seem like they have a whole lot of problems, but it would be a cartoon. Most definitely. Hopefully someday I'll transcend into a cartoon. That would be great if the afterlife was all cartoons. So maybe no one's ever thought about that. What if the afterlife is all cartoons? Holy shit. Man, would that be great? Yeah. All right. Question 44. What's the most unusual medium you've ever used in your art? Nothing too unusual. I really can't think of anything too unusual. Like, I mean, I'll use everyday items. I mean, back here, this is made of the gambit back here. You can see half of 3 feet by 3 feet. Those are real playing cards I used, and those are gambits made of real clippings from X-Men and Gambit comics to get literally I clipped up hundreds or however many pictures of him and separated the colors into different things and remade it like that so I could actually get Gambit's real colors. Of course, they don't come out that way because I have tinted lights on them. But trust me, it's the same as Gambit in the comics. So that I'll use stuff like that, like whatever's fitting for the piece. Obviously, you're doing a big Gambit decoupage. Makes a lot of sense to have playing cards on it. So, okay. I just had to do that quick check to make sure this is recording for a brief moment. I feared maybe it wasn't, but it was. Question 45. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and how would you use it in your arts? Same as the man Flash here. Love to be able to move so fast that time could stand still. I mean, I want the Flash's powers. A lot of people think running fast is a very limited thing. If you're a fan of the Flash comics like I am, you know that you can do a lot with being able to run fast, especially when you run this fast. So give me the Flash powers. I'll be getting way more art done. That's what I want. Make me the Flash. Dying to have it. Give me with the Flash metabolism, he can eat whatever he wants too. That seems like a pretty good gig for me too. So yeah. 46. What's the strangest compliment you've ever received? Wow, strangest compliment I've ever received. Compliments don't really register with me. Like they don't become something memorable for me. In the same way that negative things people say to me don't become super memorable to me, compliments don't really either. I would say I'm somebody in general who remembers how someone makes you feel more than what they say. So, you know what? Here's a weird one. This I'm gonna take as a compliment, even though I'm not sure it was meant that way. This is a weird story that happened to me once. There was a woman who I was friendly with. I don't know if I guess we sort of dated, like nothing too serious. And I was helping her. This was maybe even a while after we dated, and she had asked me for help with something, and I went to help her with it. It's just like a project, not like important like life stuff, just like art related. And at the end of the day, I walked her back to where she was living, and she said to me, she reached in her purse and said, I saw this and thought of you and wanted you to have it. And she reached in her purse and pulled out an acorn and gave it to me. I have no idea what it meant. I told her I'd save it forever, and it is still somewhere in this house. I feel like that was in some way a compliment that I didn't really get what it was, and she wouldn't have given me that acorn if it was not in some way a compliment. And I bet if I asked her about it today, she might not even remember it, but I remember it. So there is that. That person is also the only person ever proposed to me. I don't want to tell the whole story, but They did call me once in the middle of the night and ask me to marry them. Like I said, we weren't very close when we dated. That's a weird story that I forgot about until right now, but I have been proposed to. So that's, I guess, why maybe I feel like the acorn was some form of a compliment. I just don't know what it meant. So that was the strangest compliment I've ever received. Question 47. If you could have dinner with any three people, living or dead, who would they be and why? Man, three is too many. I like one-on-one. I guess I'm gonna say, I don't know. That doesn't, I don't know. I don't get excited about that dinner with dead people or dinner with like whatever. I like the way organic stuff works. I'm not like, I don't know. It's something weird about that question. It doesn't really gel with the way I do things, but I'm just gonna say the Ramones. It's only three, so I guess someone's got to stay home. Yeah, yeah, that's probably, I don't, I know you can learn a lot from people. I don't know. I just want to like live my life organically. This is a question that for whatever reason hits my brain weird and I just don't really give a shit. So moving on. Do you believe in conspiracy theories? When this question comes up, this is question 48. When this question comes up, I like to remind people that you only need two people involved for a conspiracy to exist. It doesn't have to be a group of people. So yeah, there's lots of times two people conspire on things. If you're asking about a specific thing, do I believe that so and so is hiding this, or I believe 9/11 was an inside job, or I believe that stuff? I don't fall into that stuff. A lot of those conspiracy theories, um, they they really hook themselves on a few facts that, or a few pieces of information that people blow out of proportion and totally ignore other big pieces or lack of information that totally in many ways discredits or adds bigger context to the thing that they have amplified. I think that secrets are incredibly hard to keep, especially important secrets, and I think things tend to come out. I mean, you could say that the government was hiding aliens and they're more, the fact they're being um more honest about what they've seen now would mean that there was conspiracy earlier. Yeah, I get that. But like I don't think that's the heart of what this question is. The heart of this thing that a robot made up has never been read by a human by now. But yeah, I'm not a big conspiracy theory person, though I do believe that there's oftentimes a lot of things that are of a conspiratist nature that do occur. I just don't latch on to these ridiculous things like Sandy Hook and all that thing that what Alex Jones said about that. I didn't want the words to come out of my mouth. I think it's pretty vile. But no, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. Uh 49. If you can communicate with any animal, what would it be and what would you say? Definitely my cats. I've often said that if there is an afterlife, if there's an afterlife and you don't get to find out what your pets were thinking, it's a jip. Like it's a disappointment off the bat. I want to know what they were thinking. I'd love to be able to communicate with them. That to me, there's probably when you say living or dead, people want to have dinner with, it's probably my cats. I know there are people, but that's it. What would I say? I just want to understand their world. I'm very curious what the inner workings of an animal's mind is like. Let's see. Question 50. What's the most bizarre piece of fan mail or comment you've received? Somebody once posted on a drawing of Eminem I did. They said he looked like a loaf of bread. And I could kind of see it, but it seemed like a weird thing to bring up. Um, that was pretty weird. In terms of people have done some weird things, but having a hard time remembering it. Sometimes I very much discourage people from getting too weird with me. I think sometimes the way I carry myself, they kind of know that it's not going to land that well, and I don't entertain things just for the sake of it. Like if somebody presents me with something weird, I kind of like respond in a way that kind of shuts it down, to be honest with you. I don't indulge stuff that makes me feel uncomfortable. I am good at drawing boundaries. So it's pretty often that, and a lot of times I can kind of cut off these strange encounters before they happen. I'm not interested in having strange encounters like with people I don't know, especially. Um, Question 51. If your art could come to life, what piece would you bring to life first and why? Oh man, that's a good question. Oxy Astronaut. He's the character, or actually they, because Ox is non-binary, like myself. Astronaut. I'd love to bring them to life and be able to sort of use them in my art in a way that wouldn't involve me having to draw them every single time. So yeah, a real life Oxy Astronaut and I could do a lot of fun things together. So, and I've actually been working on some ways to kind of bring that to life. Not exactly. I mean, we're not Roger Rabbering this thing. It's not going to Ox is not going to be following me around like helping me with day-to-day tasks. But I have some ideas and ways to bring that character to life that hopefully I'll get a chance to do at some point. Question 52. Yes. What's your favorite mythical creature and why? I'm just gonna say Alf. I love Alf. Oh, Bigfoot. I'm a big Bigfoot guy too. I definitely went down a rabbit hole on Bigfoot once or twice in my life. Convinced myself Bigfoot is real. Eventually, to convince yourself that Bigfoot's an interdimensional being, but a lot of y'all aren't ready for that conversation. I'm not sure I am yet either, but I find Bigfoot very fascinating. I have no idea whether Bigfoot is real or not. I feel like there's arguments. You can easily convince yourself yes, you can easily convince yourself no, depending on the day, depending on the evidence. So yeah, that's probably my favorite mythical creature is that. They're also I mentioned too that not far from where I grew up in Dover, Mass, there was something called the Dover Demon, which people don't really talk about anymore. It was probably before my time. I might even look it up and do a little research on it, but it was a sort of a mythical creature that was allegedly a little demon seen running around Dover, Mass, which is only a few. Dover was a team that we played like they were in our league in high school, like the Tri Valley League. They were one of the teams that we played because they were relatively close. So it's Dover and Sherburne were combined because they're both small towns. But yeah, so that's a pretty interesting one as well. Mothman prophecies actually too. I like that one, especially now that people are starting to call me Moth because Tim Mothy. That's catching on, people. If you see me on the streets and call me Moth, you're gonna get a high five and a sticker. So just and I give out a lot of stickers. I don't give out a lot of high fives. So let me see. Question 55. If you could switch lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why? Oh wow. Um, hmm. I'm so tempted to say Eminem because I feel like he's in a really good place in his life and he has an amazing studio and he's probably has everything he dreamed of as a child. And I feel like him and I probably dreamed about very similar things. I'd love to have access to like his to like just the setup that he has and just even the peace that he's found later in life where like he's become a bit of a family guy. He doesn't seem to let bullshit enter his life. So to be able to like I think it doesn't even really have my phone number. I think to be able to operate in a space where you can afford to be able to keep at a distance what you want to keep at a distance and really focus on what you want to do, to me feels beautiful. And it's like I would say early Eminem music better than new Eminem. There's still some new Eminem that I like, a lot of really good stuff. But it's not about me being the biggest stand for him. It's about that he's gone through a lot, and the place that he seems, at least my perception from what I've read of where he's landed, is a really cool place to have landed when he obviously could have been dead from his drug overdoses and stuff like that. He could have been shot, he sort of was able to craft out for him a really cool life that if I was in the public eye and if I made that type of stuff, I think that would be the sort of life I'd want where I'd have to have a lot of control over like what gets right around me because I'm very sensitive to the energies and the emotions of people around me. I'd like to be able to when I can exercise that control, it makes me feel better. I'm not a control freak, but I do pay a lot of attention to who I spend time around for how long and stuff like that. He seems to have that down. And just having all those tools in that amazing studio right in your basement, to me, and doing what you want to do and not having to worry about somebody pressuring you. That to me, living in that space for a day would be good. Hopefully he is not somebody who's taking a lot of stress in and out of his life because I'm doing this imagining that he doesn't have a lot of stress these days. Maybe he does. Maybe there's no escaping it. Maybe when you're at that level of a performer that you are always going to be stressed out. You're always pushing yourself. 56. What's your most outlandish goal you have for your art? I mean, I keep joking with Pillsy every time I do a song. I'm like, all right, man, get out the Grammy polish. This is the one that's gonna win us the Grammy. I don't give a damn about a Grammy to quote Eminem. But like, I once wanted to win an Eisner Award for comic books. That was my goal for a while. There is a little thing with me where like I don't care about a lot of validation, but one big piece of validation every once in a while, to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Like being just I like the idea like even use Eminem as the example. He was never supposed to be an Academy Award winner. He was a dude showing up at Dr. Dre's house in like a banana yellow tracksuit. And to be that dude kind of sitting there like this and just basically be like, oh, by the way, womp, here's my Oscar. That to me, I like that. And not that I do that very often, but like when you can come up wearing the banana yellow tracksuit and still kind of be that dude who is that at your core, and be like, yeah, I also got an Oscar. I like that shit. Like, I don't think I wouldn't, to me, it's not the validation of, look, I'm the best in the world, that's why I got this. It's a validation of, look at the game and capture the flag that I just won. Like, it's almost like I'm not supposed to have this, but I have it. So that, to me, my outlandish goal is like, give me a key to the city if I ever earn that. Like the type of thing that someone like me and what I do is not supposed to have. That's the type of goals that I want. I don't want I'm not out there going, I want the Oscar, I want the Academy Award, that's the same thing. I want the Grammy for the greatest song in the world because I need to be the greatest singer. I want to secure that ring that wasn't supposed to be for me in my own way. So whatever that is, we'll see. Um, Let me see. 57. Do you believe in aliens? Why not? Most definitely. Like with infinite space, which we have, there's infinite possibilities. There's a much less chance that there are aliens. There aren't there. I mean, it's almost mathematically impossible that aliens don't exist. If you believe that space and infinite is infinite, they kind of have to. Um, yeah, have they been here? Probably. We might have started as aliens on the planet. I don't know. Uh yeah, I'm open to all that stuff. These UFOs are pretty wild stuff. I don't know what to think of it, but there's stuff we don't understand. Question 58. If you had to create art in one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be and why? It would be music. I would probably give up the physical stuff and just do the music. There's nothing in the end for me of all the stuff I do, the most important thing to me is jokes, which is funny because I'm not a comedian. I don't write a lot. I don't like I love making people laugh. And so I found that music, I can do that better than and through that than I can through my physical art for whatever reason. My physical art is less often humorous, but um yeah, it would be music because I feel like that's the way I can express the thing that's most important to me. It's the way I can explain myself the best. It's I sometimes can explain myself better through my art than I can through my own words. So here I am answering 7 questions myself, explaining myself. Question 59. What is the weirdest thing you've ever eaten? Ah, God, cactus maybe? I'm not a big, I have a lot of food allergies. I'm not a very adventurous eater because, you know, when there's certain things that can kill you to eat, it kind of like, you're not always up to eat things you've never eaten before, especially things that maybe don't get tested for a lot on food test, on like allergy tests, because maybe there is a big allergy out there I don't know about. There's sometimes, when I go to Florida, when I went to Disney, there's 2 spots in Disney on one day that when I walked by, I had a massive allergic reaction. My eyes just started pouring water. When I walked away from that area, it went away. I don't know what happened that day. That was probably obviously something plant related and not something food related, but it reminded me that there is a bit of you don't know what's out there. So I'm not a very big adventurous eater. I don't eat most animals. So I think when a lot of people talk about the weirdest thing they've eaten, it's usually an animal, and I don't want to think about eating like a polar bear baby or something like that. Like is not my thing. I was never sort of that dude that was like, oh, like, what does an emu taste like? No, I mean, yeah, pretty generic eater. I'm kind of on the path of eat to live, not live to eat, because I did struggle with weight and eating disorders earlier in my life. So now it's like I asked someone a question once. I'm like, if you could give up, if you would you give up eating if it also meant you never had to go to the bathroom again? So to basically take that off the table. Nothing goes in, nothing goes out. I would immediately give that up. I would like, and I'd even give up eating if I still had to go to the bathroom because I'd love to not have to stop what I'm doing to eat. And I think a lot of people, when I asked people that question, they were like, no, I don't go to the bathroom doesn't bother me. I love eating. I'm like, no, take them both. Even just take the good one. So I don't know. It's the way I am. It's the way I am now. So I wasn't always that way. Question 60. If you could have any fictional creature as a pet, fictional creature as a pet, what would it be and why? Man, so many. Like Garfield. Love to have Garfield walking around here. Um Care Bears. I always think they'd be a fun little companion. I always said that I wanted to have a giant purple roller skating ape that would just sit next to me at work with like a big pile of bananas and just eat one and toss in a big pile of peels like all day long. For some reason, I just want this big purple roller skating gorilla just chilling next to me all day. Like What's up? So maybe him. I don't have a name for him yet. Or maybe not even him. You should give me a her. Maybe a they. I don't know. I just want the gorilla. So, them would be cool. Yeah, I mean, I just this it's I just think of comic book characters. I'd love to have a little Orbity. Like, you know what I love too? I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I love the droids in Star Wars. I think they're the heart and soul of those movies. And I think they're the thing that for me tie them all together. They're the thing that, like, because Star Wars in general, like, in some moments in Star Wars have to carry a lot of weight. Some of them are sort of paper thin, only in some ways because the sets are kind of old and you can see like the creases and stuff, or some just because like you're kind of like on the leap of faith in the story, and some of it you have to kind of take with like, okay, I'm accepting this. But like the droids to me are the magic that pull it all together. They are the ones that I think make the universe, their existence in the universe helps the universe make the most sense, and their ability to bridge together the grounded elements of those stories and the more fantastical elements of those stories, as if like the force is no longer like the droids almost feel magic in those movies in the way they act, and therefore makes the force no longer the only sort of magic thing in those movies. And that to me helps sell the entire concept. Like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job articulating that, but I've always really liked R2D2. Like, I like those little mascot characters that express so much without really having to even talk sometimes. Like Wally from the Wally movie. I thought that was a beautiful character. So I wouldn't mind having a little sidekick like that, like that sort of just follow me around, that only I could communicate with. That to me seems like a lot. That's sort of what my hope for AI is, like something like that. Like actually I'm excited about that. That's worth living another 40 years for. Okay, we're getting fairly close to the end here. We are on question 61. What's the most eccentric habit that you have? Eccentric habit. Oh man. Uh, I mean, there's a bit of an OCD element that I have to things where all my records are in perfect alphabetical order. My comic books are. I mean, that's more, I don't know if that's a habit, but organization and stuff like that matters to me, even if it's stuff I don't look at that often. Um, I don't, you would think I have more, I mean, maybe I have eccentric habits that I don't think are eccentric, but it's just the way that I do things. But I do kind of operate in my own sphere of doing things. So I need someone else to come over here and kind of take notes on me and determine what my most eccentric habit is. I mean, I cut the sleeves off my shirt. I don't know if that's eccentric. I mean, probably not, but um, okay. 62. If you could travel back in time to any era, which one would it be and why? Ooh. Um, Early days of hip hop, I'd say. I mean, you can make so many arguments about stuff that happened before that, but like, I'm not interested in a lot of the bullshit. I don't want to go back to a time when like everything is way different. I'm like, I can read about a lot of stuff in history books. I want to experience the early days of hip hop. That would be a big thing for me. I want to be able to see it firsthand. It's something that, while I'm there, it's also some of the early days of wrestling. So while I'm back there, I'd love to watch some of those Under the Giant matches they got taped over and never really progressed, never really made it. Like, so that like mid 70s, 80s time to me, there's a lot of stuff there that like fell just short of things that were really well documented, but still have a big influence in my life. So I'd love to be able to go back and experience that stuff firsthand. Yeah, that's it. 63. What's the most peculiar inspiration for a piece of art you've created? Ooh, um, man, it comes from everywhere. Like, I can't. It's hard to remember one because so much of my stuff starts with there's a DJ Shadow song called "Building Steam with a Grain of Salt." So much of my stuff is about building steam with a grain of salt. Like I mentioned before, I almost wrote a song about having too much stuff in my pockets. I'm always out looking for that little thing that can turn to a big idea. So it really could be anywhere, and I'm always on the lookout for it. And it kind of like for me, if you look at like the way I learned music. I never took lessons. I had a family member taught me, I think, one Ramon song. They taught me Blitzkrieg Bob, and everything learned from there. So I'm big on starting small and just seeing how big I can make it. So I wish I could think of what the most peculiar piece of inspiration. Oh, you know what? I actually have a good story for this. I do. Having said all that, when I mentioned before that I lived at the Natick Mall in Natick, Massachusetts, where my building was was constructed was the former grounds of a Twinkie factory. If anybody's a longtime Family Guy fan, they remember an episode, I believe in the first season, where there's some form of nuclear apocalypse, I believe, and Peter's like, well, Twinkies will survive that, so we have to go to Natick and go to Twinkie factory because there'll be Twinkies there, and they do. That was a Twinkie factory. That Twinkie factory did exist. It was a Wonder Bread factory. It's made the entire area smell wonderful a lot of the time. No pun intended to Wonder Bread. And they eventually tore it down and they built my building on it. And when I was living in that building, I remember watching the movie Poltergeist. The movie Poltergeist is a movie about people who move into a house that was built on top of a Native American burial ground that now was haunting the house. I came up with the idea of saying, okay, well, my condo or my building is built on, I think you see where I'm going with this, on the grounds of a Twinkie factory, a Hostess factory, Wonder Bread factory. What sort of ghosts would haunt where I live? And I made that painting. So I made this big, long painting that I actually sold in my art show a few years ago. And I called it The Ghost of Cupcakes Past. And it used all the colors of Wonder Bread and like the circles and stuff that was similar to their branding. It also had like basically images of cupcakes as ghosts is the best way I could put it. So that kind of symbolizes the way I come up with my ideas. Like that to me is a home run idea for me. It's a little bit of my personal life. It brings in stuff that other people know. It's like, to me, that's the right blend of something bright and poppy that's cool, even if you don't get it. If you do get it, it's a neat little story. And for me, it's also something personal. So that to me is I like when that stuff comes together. Question 64. If you could transform into any inanimate object, what would it be and why? Man, oh God, it's hard to say something here that isn't a little dirty, so we'll leave that out. But any inanimate object, it's like it's hard. You're an inanimate object, you can't do anything. Like on a microphone, maybe. I don't know. Like there's very little interest in me being inanimate. Like I guess it suggests that you're in some sort of like fugue state where like you're just forever experiencing and never engaging. It sounds like a hell on earth. So I'm gonna take a pass on that. Maybe a bong because maybe the music sounds good on the inside. I did actually write a song recently where I mentioned listening to music inside of a bong. So I'm just gonna say bong because I want to see what the music sounds like on the inside. Who knows? Not my proudest answer. That's one I probably, if I thought more about it, might come up with something different. So 65. What's the most surreal experience you've had as an artist? I mean, working with working with some of the artists I've worked with has been insane. Like there was a moment, I don't want to mention who it is, but like I became friendly with an artist that I was a huge fan of when I was in late 90s, early 2000s, and now we're friendly. And there was this one day, I'm up in my room. It's late at night, it's a beautiful night. It's like, remember, the skylights open, it was beautiful weather. And I was playing one of those old school like Nintendo things where you could I had all the games saved in it. It had the game Rampage, the one where you're the animal, you're punching the buildings. Always one of my favorites as a kid. I was playing that, and one of my favorite rappers growing up is just texting me random stuff and we're having a conversation. And it's like everything felt really great in that moment where I'm like, wow, this is surreal. Like, and then more and more even since that moment, like someone I'm working with now, or hopefully I'm working with now that I'm working on some songs with, like it came about because a friend of mine who I've been working with for years, like, oh, me and him are now doing stuff. So like things are falling into my lap that I used to have to chase. That is super surreal. Like that is, to me, that's why I put the work in. And even this podcast, like I started this podcast because I wanted to get better at talking to people. I felt like I was missing out on friends and missing out on people like me, my village idiot syndrome. And it's been surreal just how this is manifested into real things. I wouldn't be doing the show opening for my favorite rapper and Elza next month if it had not been for this podcast. So question 66. If you could have a conversation with your past self, what would you say? I would say learn to forgive yourself at an earlier age and hold yourself up to an appropriate standard, and learn early on that most people's opinions don't count, and that yeah, don't take advice from people who, I don't know, I feel exactly what saying is, but like yeah, just be your own person and trust your gut a little more, and go, and that ADHD thing, figure that out sooner. Like honestly, like don't listen to those people who in high school told you, oh, you don't have that, you're just lazy, or you're gonna get diagnosed with something that's gonna follow you around the rest of your life. I wish that I knew I had ADHD when I was 10, 11, whenever would have been the right age to start treating it. It would have made a big difference in my life. It's one of the only things I look back on and go, that could have changed things. Now, I'm not saying I would have ended up in a better place. I may have been too early in my life to be treated. It may have caused other things. But yeah, that's something too, is like I'd love to clue myself in on some of the things I learned about myself later in life that would have served me well back then, in being able to be better at having close personal relationships at a younger age, and just being able to be my authentic self more. That's a big thing. Question 67. What's your favorite conspiracy theory and why? Another conspiracy theory question. I don't really have a favorite conspiracy theory. I don't like it's I'll say maybe Bigfoot. You know what? Actually, the alien thing I am kind of enjoying that now. It's kind of funny that they said aliens are basically, we don't know what this thing is. It could be an alien. People are just like, yeah, yeah, I guess we already knew that. But watching that unfold has been kind of fun. But like, I'm gonna count Bigfoot. It's a pretty it's one that doesn't really hurt a lot of people. It's not one that calls a lot of people liars or crisis actors and stuff like that. It's a conspiracy theory that's kind of on my level. You can have fun with it. You can get serious with it if you want. You can just kind of keep it at a fun level. So I do like that. I like the idea of Bigfoot. Bigfoot's something that I wouldn't be surprised if it someday showed up in like a script or something that I did, or I did something based around Bigfoot, because it is a character that I have found myself fascinated with over the years. And I think that there is some stuff you can do with that creature, that character, that hasn't been done yet. So we'll see if it's done, you know. Oh wait, they already did Harry and the Hendersons, damn it. All right. Um Question 68. If you could make any fictional character come to life, who would it be and why? This one I feel we've got a few different versions of it. Love to get the Flash going so we can teach me how to run so fast. So we're gonna say maybe him. Let me see. That might be it, is the Flash. Because I'm a big fan and I love to learn how to do what the Flash does. And I feel like a lot of people that hang out with the Flash end up being able to run as fast as the Flash. So that's my way to get me being the Flash, is by hanging out with the Flash. So yeah, let's get him going, get him over my house. All of a sudden, whatever lightning bolt hit him is gonna hit me, and then I'm gonna be on my way. All right. Question 69. What's the most unconventional method you've used to create art? Man, unconventional method. I got a paintball gun, which hasn't worked out the way I really want it to. Because I learned, as somebody told me, I should have listened, that paintball paint is pretty watery. It makes sense. It's made to be able to be washed off fairly easily, because, if you were using heavier paint, obviously it wouldn't, not only would it not wash out as much, but it would probably do more damage to your clothes. Your clothes would get heavier and stiffer. So it makes sense for the entire process that like the paint is a little more watery. I would like to at some point get some less watery paintballs. That might be something I make myself, but it's an interesting thought. The one thing, that the problem I found was that the paintballs shoot hard enough that when you hit a canvas with them, they are going to puncture the canvas. If not all the way through, they're going to leave a little dimple in it. Though oddly enough, I have a friend of mine that I've known for a long time who, hopefully this doesn't give too much away, but they have a painting that was done by Rosie O'Donnell with a paintball gun. And it's because this person's, I believe, aunt was Rosie's personal assistant for a long time. And one day, my friend went to go visit the aunt when they were with Rosie, and Rosie was there with a paintball gun shooting canvases and gave him one. So I think I've seen that canvas before, and I forget the details, but I'm curious what Rosie was doing. This is a long time ago. I'm not sure that like he knows the answer. I'm not sure I'm going to get the path of Rosie to find out, but something for me to research. I really get the idea from watching the Community episode with the paintball stuff, and whatever paintball they were using, I need to get some of that. So, all right, we have like 10 questions left. Question 70. If you were to create an art piece that represents your dreams, what would it look like? Ooh, it would probably be, uh, I have a lot of recurring dreams. So my dreams, I tend to have a lot of repeating dreams. So a piece of art that represented my dreams would probably be something that repeats a lot. So, question 71. What's the weirdest place you found inspiration for your art? I feel like I've answered this question so many times. I feel like when I said weird into ChatGPT, it's just giving me questions with the word weird in it. So that's kind of weird. But the most unconventional, the weirdest place to find inspiration for your art, really everywhere. It's just they're all weird places. Like it's I'm I'm wanting to find inspiration in the weird places. It's rare when I find it in like the I don't know. I find it from everywhere. I try to treat all my surroundings in some ways as being equal of something that can inspire me. So no, it never feels weird, but it may look weird if I sit back to think about it. So though I will say, this is a story I've told. Maybe isn't the weirdest, but this is a decent story about inspiration in my art. I have a song called "Take as Needed." It's previously called "Garden State Syndrome," an earlier version of it, which had my man Judge D on it. But now on my new album, "Drinking Songs for Children," it's me called "Take as Needed," and I do two verses on it. The first verse, I think it's the best thing I've ever written. I actually spit it when I was in Virginia. I spit it in Texas last month. I'll probably spit it in my next couple shows. And it's about depression and prescription medication. I was really depressed one day in my 20s. I called in sick from work because I couldn't get out of bed. I was too depressed. Watched the movie Garden State for the first time. I don't even think I've seen it since. And about halfway through, someone said a line and inspired something in me. I hit pause and I wrote the whole thing about a 2 minute long verse that's almost unchanged to this day. And inspiration can come from one line when you're in the right place and time, and it's got to come out. So just be prepared, be self-aware, be ready for it when it comes, and don't be snobby of where it comes from. Accept it from everywhere. Question 72. If you could have an artist's work hang in your home, whose would it be and why? I'm gonna actually use this to talk about the artist Brand One, who I paid to do a piece for me, $200 over 5 years ago. He said he'd have it in 2 weeks and he'd never delivered it. So I don't usually snipe at people, but I thought that was kind of a shitty thing to do. So I'd love to have that piece of Tron art that I already paid for hang in my house, you know? And I only bring that up to go, he was somebody who I tremendously admired and he really inspired me to get into art. But that's the thing, if you're a performer, the one thing you got to do is show up. And I don't like that this hasn't happened. I'm not really a jerk about these sort of things, but I don't forget stuff like that. And I would love to have that piece hanging in my house. I paid for it. I wanted it because it meant something to me. But now, unfortunately, the being blown off for so many years means that I don't think it would ever mean anything to me. If I got it tomorrow, it would remind me of how blown off I was. I don't think that I just it's hard not to take it personally when someone does that. So we'll see. Maybe we'll hit him up again. But this that really bothered me, and it's something that I took a lesson from that I would never do that to anybody. I deliver on things right away, and I'm not sure why someone else would want to be that way. So whatever. If he hears this, that's how I feel. Um, and you can Venmo me the $200 if you prefer. At Soma79 on Venmo. Question 73. What's the most bizarre ritual you have before creating art? God, bizarre. Oh, you know what I do? It's cleaning. I mentioned that a few times before. Like just having a space where I mentally feel comfortable to create art. I need to have my area in a certain way when I'm doing something, especially something important. So yeah, it's that ritual of cleaning. But that's not just having the area like that. I've always had this thing since I was a kid. This probably grew up in a house where cleaning and chores were pretty important, or at least taken seriously. Um, I can enjoy my day better when I've checked things off the list. And when they're life things as opposed to art things, it makes it even easier. So I can transition, like I like to get my life things done early so I can then really explore my art things without feeling like I'm gonna be dragged back into the life things. It's one of the reasons why if I make plans with me, I'd almost always rather make them in the morning. You'll get the more engaged version of me in the morning. It's not great for a lot of people because they're not morning people. I am a morning person. You're always going to get the better version of me in the morning, the one that's more engaged, the one that has more to offer. That's my energy is better than. So just a, tip to any of y'all people, like that's the one to hit me up. Question 74. If you could merge two animals to create a new species, which one would you choose and why? Oh man. I don't know, a cat and a bear sounds pretty scary, but maybe that. I mean, I'm not one of those like I don't like to play God like that. I think that we got enough fuzzy creatures running around. Yeah, it's just the idea of that, just kind of I don't like I don't like what you'd have to do to the animals to make it happen, which maybe sounds like a cop out in this question. But yeah, I just don't really like this question. I don't like thinking about it, so I'm not going to. Question 75. What's the strangest song you've ever heard and liked? Ooh, strangest song I've heard and liked. Let's talk about strange songs that I like. Hocus Pocus by Focus. Don't know that one. A lot of yodeling in that song. I think it's one from the 70s. Love that song. If you've ever heard a song with a bunch of yodeling in it, it's most likely that. Love that song. I love is it is it that's not what's the Peaches song? The teaching Fuck the Pain Away. I was gonna say Fuck Me on the Dance Floor. That's a Princess Superstar song. Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches, a song that is mostly just improv in the moment, but has that sort of raw energy that like it transcends, like it feels like a song that not a whole lot probably went into making it, but the end result transcends it completely. And it's, I love shit like that. I love shit that feels like it was just all the elements coming together at once. So I'd say Hocus Pocus by Focus and Fuck the Pain Away by Peaches are probably two of the weirdest songs that they heard and really like. Throw in a bunch of Sonic Youth in there as well. They have a lot of stuff that's quote unquote weird that I really like, that they find melody in weird places. I love Change Your Mind by Neil Young. It's like a 10+ minute song by him that just goes all over the place but still returns back to where it should be. It's a great song. It's on the album was called Change Your Mind as well. I think the whole album was a tribute to Kurt Cobain. um Let me see. 76. If you could write a book about anything, what would it be about? I actually wrote 100,000 words of a novel called Cloverleaf Spider Dove that'll probably never see the light of day. This is the idea I had for this book, which I started writing this in my early 20s. I was not a talented enough writer to do this, but the idea that like when someone is abused as a child, in some ways they get stuck into that mentality that they end up that they're as an adult, as a child, they're being brought into adult world by being abused sexually, and as an adult they still are carrying some of their childhood with them because they never got to fully experience it through the abuse. The idea I had was that I'd write a story about this, and I wrote a lot of this but never finished it. The story was about this character who you hear the beginning, there's alternating chapters between being a child and being as an adult. But as the story goes on, it's harder to tell if the chapter is about them being a child or an adult because the worlds are merging and you kind of get what I'm talking about. It was a really hard thing to pull off, and I didn't have the chops to do it. Even now, as I talk about it, I know the level of effort that I have to go into doing it, and I'm just like, ooh, that's I don't know. I don't know if I got that in me. But there's that. That's the idea. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever finish it. Yeah, I don't. A book to me feels like a lot of work and not one I'm particularly interested, not really where my heart's at. 77. What's the most unusual thing you'd use as a canvas? Oof. You know what I used to do was first piece I ever sold was a broken piece of IKEA furniture. Sometimes like you have IKEA like bookcases, they're flat boards. I would take those instead of having it end up in a landfill. I would paint on it. First piece I ever sold for like $225 was a board for my IKEA like bookcase or something like that that I painted over. The piece probably took me 10-15 minutes to do. Lots of other pieces that I spent hours and hours on, never sold. It's an important lesson in that. But I am a firm believer in upcycle. Piece to Katie Newton. She's a big upcycler herself. And she's kind of helped inspire me with that. But yeah, find that stuff around you. And if you see somebody that has like an old painting they're giving away on the side of the road, pick it up, spray paint it, put something on it. Give that thing a new life. Second to last question. If you could see any color that doesn't exist in our current spectrum, what would it look like? That's a really tough question to answer. I do like to think about how different animals and insects, because their eyes are different, probably see things drastically different. The idea of a color that exists that we can't comprehend, I mean, it's almost like asking the sound of one hand clapping. It's really an unanswerable question. Yeah, it would be neat, but it's every color that exists, it exists in relation to other colors. So I'm not sure how you create a color that's not in relation to other colors and be able to actually grip on your brain what that looks like. It's an unaskable question. I ask for weird questions. I got one. All right, number 79, the last question. What's the weirdest idea you've had for a piece of art that you haven't created yet? Wow. I mean, the one I talked about with that book, I still think it's a good idea and I haven't created it yet, but I don't think I ever will. There's the Drinking Songs for Children movie has been something that I've been working on off and on for years. There's a lot of weird shit in there that hasn't happened yet. One of them that I have shot but haven't fully edited involves me in a straitjacket. So that project is full of a lot of weirdness and it's only partially done. I have to find a way to finish it. It's hard to juggle it with the podcast and everything else I'm doing, but I owe it to people like Aztec to get that song out with me, him, Cool Keith, and Czarface. And I wanted to get it out in July, and it's not going to happen because the video is not done yet. So apologies to Aztec if you see this. I'm still working on it, and I'm going to try to get it done by end of the year. It's one of my top priorities, but other things keep getting in the way, and it's hard to turn down these shows and these great opportunities. When I take on a show, I do a lot of rehearsal, and that eats up a lot of time. So it is what it is. So that was 79 questions. I feel like I got through it maybe a little under 2 hours, I think. I'll have to check the tape because I don't really have a timer going while I'm doing this. But, thank you to anybody who made it to the end. Thank you so much for riding with me for the first 79 episodes of this podcast. Like I've got to meet so many exciting, cool people, have so many conversations, enriched myself. And it's been amazing. I've made so many new friends, and I really appreciate everybody who's watched, everybody who's been a guest, everybody who's participated, everybody who's shown support, everybody who's liked, commented, shared, all that stuff. It means a lot to me. I hope that you're excited about some of the stuff that I'm working on, and I hope you're going to dig it when it comes out. And thank you so much for making it this far with me. I really appreciate it, and thank you. So with that, that's 79 episodes. If all goes as planned, next week will be the start of my Virginia tour vlog. I'm about halfway through editing that. I'm gonna try to get that done over this 4-day weekend, and we'll take it from there. So thank you so much, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure doing this with you and for you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Somebody said I had a face only a mother would punch. I said she'd love me if she knew me, so I took her out to lunch. When the check came, we played that who's gonna get it game. Then we battled to the death over who wouldn't let the other pay. That was just another day in the life of this little dweebo who's half Devo, 3/4 Stevo, and Bell Biv Devo. Sitting splitting a Toblerone with my overly sober clone that's strolling home alone. Token cones are homegrown to the dome. Rolling stones in my chromosomes, painted flat black with chrome, pulling to the lower zone where everyone knows don't go alone. It's where I roam, cause if you're throwing bones, I'll be the one throwing stones. I go into fundraising with guns blazing at fun patrons, at drunken complacent brunches with multiple sons named Mason. I'd like to thank you, then thank the Academy, but honestly I don't care if any of you were mad at me. You can stop flattering me. Yes, I heard you laughing happily, cause of course that was me that actually had the audacity. Yes, that was me. I actually had the audacity. Stop flattering me. Yes, I heard you laughing happily, cause of course that was me that actually had the audacity. Yes, that was me that actually had the audacity. I'm a risk factor because my lips split faster than grits get defractured and getting clipped by tractors. I cannot actually act, but I can impersonate an actor by imagining that I had the craft that I lack naturally. Ali Fraser style trailblazer, wild child hail raiser, pile drivinator on top of a steel chair from Vader. I get up on a whim when with a smile and a grin I can burn all the bridges cause I know how to swim. Keep your lips hydrated and your hips gyrated, eyes wide dilated when you're inside of the matrix. Inside the eyes of Satan I'll be divinely annihilated. I ain't shaking, I like to smoke, my hide can take the bacon, cause I believe in Nathan. The only kiss of death that matters belongs to Jason. I wish this whole damn nation would split a chill pill, fall asleep at their station, repeat listening to sleigh bells, rill. Yo, you can stop flattering me. Yes, I heard you laughing happily. Of course that was me that actually had the audacity. Yes, that was me. I actually had the audacity. But stop flattering me. I heard you laughing happily. Of course that was me that actually had the audacity. Yes, that was me. Yes, I had the audacity.